This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, Michael Covel. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion. Gave a presentation online yesterday to an audience in Beijing, approximately 1,000 people. High net worth, I was told, curious, interested, and wanting to understand trend following content, wanting to understand trend following. I did not give this example that I'm going to give today during the presentation, but it was inspired from that presentation. Let's imagine we don't know anything. And let's imagine that all of the people on the TV, the media, the financial voices, they don't know shit either. I see these folks on Twitter. Some of them I respect and I like as people, but many of them feel the need and have built their life around the idea that they have a comment every day that supposedly will be useful for someone to make a financial decision, a trading decision. Now, of course, that's just bullshit. It's nonsense. It's noise. The real world doesn't work like that. Back to my assumption. We don't know anything. And this is the groundwork of trend following. The example that I'm going to give here is the basic understanding of trend following explained in detail across my books, my courses, etc., across the many interviews on this podcast. But on day one, you don't know anything. And stock XYZ, stock or sample market, we shall call it. Our sample market XYZ is trading at price level 10 on day one. Day two, trading at price level 10. Day 3, 10. Day 4, 10. Day 5, 10. On day 6, let's make it longer. It stays at price level 10 for 100 days. The market goes flat for 100 days. No movement. I mean, maybe it's a little volatile up and down, but overall it stays flat. So for 100 days, our hypothetical market, XYZ we call it, is at price level 10, 100 days straight. On the 101st day, it jumps to 20. We are buying this market. Why are we buying this market? Because we're trend following traders. What do we know about this market? Not much. We know that it's been flat for 100 days, and we know it's doubled in one day. This is the type of example that we all know happens all the time. So now you're in. Now what? Let's say it just takes off. It's going up 5 points a day for many days. So we got no movement for 100 days, goes from 10 to 20 in one day, then goes to 30 perhaps. Now what? Well, we bought it when it jumped up to 20. Now it's at 30. We're happy. We made a little money. This is trend following. You could do this mindset, this thinking, long or short. Now you might be saying, well, what have you told me that's interesting? What have you told me that's useful? You didn't tell me what's going to happen next. Come on, folks. Anyone that tells you what's going to happen next is full of shit. No one knows what's going to happen next. That's the whole damn point. So here we are, 100 days at price level 10, jumps to 20 on 101 day, then jumps up to 30. What do? As long as it keeps going up, we don't do anything except stay long with a stop loss. Meaning if it goes against us some amount, we get out. What can that amount be? Generally pretty tight, but sometimes you give it a little latitude. But a specific rule, a specific stop loss rule. Now imagine playing this mindset out across many markets. Because if you're going about your daily life, and if this first example I gave you is flat for 100 days, you're not doing anything at all. You're just sitting there waiting. The enterprising engineering ones of you out there are probably thinking, well, if I'm following one market and it's flat for 100 days, That's not much effort that I have to do. What if I followed a second market and a third market and a fourth market and a fifth market? Because generally you can follow that many markets because they're not always moving with any kind of momentum where you have to take an entry. So let's say you're following 50 markets, waiting. Some of those markets stay in a range-bound band and you don't do anything. Some break down and start to drop. Maybe you take a short position. Mind you, I'm not telling you anything like what Jim Cramer says. I'm not saying anything like the financial Twitter universe or Bloomberg or CNBC. You really don't have to have shit for knowledge about Wall Street to trade the markets that appear on Wall Street. All you have to have is some understanding of momentum. And if a series of numbers start to move up, and mind you, I'm saying a series of numbers, I'm not talking about gold or silver or whatever, because why the hell does it matter, really? But if a series of numbers start to move up, we'll follow along those damn numbers because we don't know what's going to happen. I saw the famed trader Stanley Druckenmiller say it. Analysis paralysis. Looking at things too much. His point was, look, let's take a position. We'll figure it out later. Price movements mean something. In the simplest terms, they mean the market's moving. We don't know what's behind it. That was actually one of the questions from China. How do we know who the whales are that we're competing against? We don't. And we can't worry about that. All we can worry about is that the whales, the big players, they're embedded in the price as well. So let's just focus on the one damn thing, the price. So now here you are, sitting back, not paying attention to anyone, not caring what anyone thinks. Do you realize how confident this would make you? Think about the confidence. Maybe you don't understand exactly what I'm saying. Maybe you don't believe what I'm saying is true. But go along with me. If you believe that a series of price movements, a series of numbers are flat and start to move up in a pronounced way, and you follow along, that has meaning. This has meaning in the natural world. You just get on board. Now, it sounds simple. Daniel Kahneman won the Nobel Prize for essentially laying out the psychological framework to think like this. Ed Sakota has a rather cool song on YouTube called the Whipsaw Song that explains in another way what I'm saying today. What I'm saying is trend following. But think about your confidence. If you can believe something like this, you don't have to listen to a lot of voices for the rest of your life. You can just block those voices out. Now, if you block those voices out, what happens? I did not learn much in my MBA program. I learned the definition of a sunk cost and an opportunity cost. Sunk cost, if it's paid for, it's paid for. No use crying over spilled milk. But the opportunity cost, if you don't have to listen to those voices, you can apply your time to something else. If you don't feel this sense of fear, this fear of missing out, this fear that there might be this smart voice on Twitter or somewhere who's going to tell you something that particular day. Of course, they're telling everyone at the same time, right? You're not special. But they're telling you something. And if you're afraid that you're going to miss out on this, if you don't understand that the price data itself already has all of the information and expertise embedded in it, it's telling you the story. And if the price is moving up, there is your story. How long will the price go up or down? We don't know. Can you live with that? Can you live with that uncertainty that you don't know? You can't know. You can't predict. Can you live with it? Well, if you can't live with it, then you're kind of like over here on the Jim Jones Guyana Kool-Aid farm, just pretending, just accepting the propaganda, just believing the bullshit. But if you can allow yourself to imagine a world where you can trade to make money by only looking at price data, do you notice what happens? The freedom goes up, your personal freedom. You are removed from the shackles of having to listen to nonsense voices that only want you to listen to them because you're getting monetized in some way. Now, don't get me wrong. I like money too, and I like monetizing people too. But how do I do it? Quite simply, I do it by sharing information, by teaching. And there are all different types of ways that people can accept education from me or not accept it. But you don't have to listen to me every day to find out what I'm going to say about some topical bullshit event, some made up nonsense involving a politician or a Fed official or some talking head on CNBC or Bloomberg. These things are all inconsequential. So why do smart people pay attention? Well, because they're not so smart. Because if you were so smart, why the hell would you pay attention? The only thing that matters when you have money on the line and you are trading prices is to make sure you don't lose all your money. So back to my hypothetical example, it goes at price level 10 for 100 days, jumps up to 20, jumps up to 30, goes to 40, goes to 50. Uh-oh, it crashes and it goes to 5. Well, that's not so pretty. Now it's below where we bought it. So what? Get out. Now, of course, in my hypothetical example, you would have not gone to 60 and then below your entry price at 10 to 5. That's not going to be typical. But I want you to imagine the possibilities. The possibility of following numbers when you cannot predict, when you cannot know. You see, it's just like a game, like Risk or Monopoly, some kind of weird game that little kids can make up. It's all rooted in Bayesian statistics. If something starts to move, follow along. If it keeps moving, follow along. Seems simple. It is simple. The hard part is accepting the simplicity. Because let's face it, most people have been conditioned to think that what I'm describing today is too simple. And so thus they look for the professor that can draw the hieroglyphics on the wall, that can give you the calculus formulas, that they can map it all out for you in some intricate detail that you don't understand. And the implication is that since you don't understand it, that other person does, and thus you must pay attention to them because they know the secret. They have the secret decoder ring, and the math is so complicated and so sophisticated that you, a mere mortal, can't figure it out. Now, you might not have the time to do the exercise that I'm going to tell you about, but you should if you don't believe me. My books actually will get you there in a pretty quick way. But the style of trading that I'm talking about today, this trend following style of trading, has been practiced for a long time. I just had an interview on my podcast with Paul Mulvaney. He made the point that when he started in the 90s, he made the point that it was all about the people that came before me. So what does that mean? It means that you can pick something like this apart. You can take this game of trend following. You can look at performance histories. You can look at the clues that came before you started, and you can gain confidence. That's exactly what Paul Mulvaney did. He says it clearly on my podcast. Oh, by the way, that is one of the more popular podcasts that I've released in a long time. I'm not sure exactly why, probably because it's the first podcast that Paul's ever given. But that's the fun part of this game, this puzzle. Who were the puzzle players before you? How did they manage the puzzle? How did they understand the puzzle? Go back to my second interview with Ed Sakota on this podcast. Ed talking about being in the basement at MIT in the 1970s with punch cards, essentially counting numbers, using his rules to know, oh, now we've got a little momentum here. A market's moving up or a market's moving down. So it doesn't matter the decade. We're all going to die. It comes and goes. We come and go. But this strategy, this trend following thinking based on price keeps going on and on and on. If you want further data proof, drop me an email. My email is my first name at my last name.com, michael@covel.com. I'll send you the links for 2 white papers that show this performance going back for 100 years and 200 years, respectively. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, okay, Mike, you give me this simple example about price level 10 every day. So you must be giving me an example about one price per day, a closing price per day. Yes, I am. Now, some of you enterprising souls out there might be thinking, well, let me apply this to 1-hour bars. Let me trade this strategy during the middle of the day. I don't want to hold a position overnight. Well, I thought you were going to investigate how the puzzle players before you did it. And the puzzle players before you became so smart with all your screens on your desk and all your technology, they did not do what you were thinking about doing. 5-minute bars, 15-minute bars, 1-hour bars. No, it doesn't work that way. Remember, the goal here, or at least the goal from my perspective, and the goal that I can teach you, that I can persuade you to, is freedom. Freedom to escape from the voices. Freedom to escape from the cacophony of noise, the nonstop dental drill in the ear. Nobody wants that. Look, everyone has different desires for what they might want to do in life, but nobody really wants to stare at a screen. Nobody really wants that kind of a lifestyle. I think one of the most fascinating aspects to trend following is that the simple way that I'm explaining it today will cause a lot of people to be of the mindset, that guy Mike is full of shit. That guy Mike doesn't understand. That guy Mike is making it seem too simple. That guy Mike is just an idiot. But if I was such an idiot, why do these traders, the Larry Heights of the world, the Paul Mulvaney's of the world, the Dunn Capitals of the world, the Tom Bassos of the world, the Jerry Parkers of the world, why have they chosen to come onto this podcast and share their insights? Maybe I'm a nice guy, so they like me because I'm a nice guy. Maybe they think I know a little bit, and I do know a little bit. And what I'm telling you, here's the experiment. Accept it as proof. Accept it as fact. Accept it as reality. Now, go prove me wrong. You can't. You cannot prove this idea of trend following wrong. Oh, of course, you can stay out of the markets. You don't have to trade. You can accept Social Security and a free check to buy dog food. You can do anything. But for those people that properly understand that we do need to take some risks in life, we do need to find some capital to have some freedom. That's the way the current world is organized and structured. People say money doesn't buy happiness. Money buys a lot. It buys a hell of a lot. You can have all kinds of debates about what happiness is and happiness isn't. But if you've got your basic bills covered and you can do productive things that you enjoy each day, your chances for happiness are going to go to the moon. To even take it back a step further from my example with the prices, price just moves. Things move. Momentum. I think about crossing the street in Saigon, Vietnam. You can't worry about getting hit. That's not the strategy. The strategy is to go. The strategy is to go with the flow. The strategy, as Stanley Druckenmiller said, is to investigate and figure it out later. And by investigate, if you're crossing the street in Saigon, Vietnam, that means you just start crossing the street. They're not going to kill you. They're not going to hit you. I mean, maybe. They haven't hit me yet. But you go with the flow. I would think the Western world at some point in time will hope that the Eastern world doesn't understand trend following deep in their bones. Because I think the Eastern world is going to have a better chance of success with trend following mindsets and principles. So much of the Eastern traditions are all about this going with the flow, going with the momentum, not questioning it, not trying to understand it, just accepting it. That's not easy. At least if you grew up in the West, like I did, like many of you probably did. But if you can get outside of your comfort zone and just accept something basic, Alan Watts, the Eastern philosopher, British Eastern philosopher, who helped popularize Buddhism in the West. And that's no pitch for religion, but go with the flow. Accept the flow. There's something magical about it. You have to just jump. When you jump in, you're in the water. If it's the wrong water, you get back out. If it's the right water, see where the water takes you. If the water takes you in the wrong direction, again, go to the shore. If the water takes you in the right direction, your brilliance was not understanding why the water works. Your brilliance was just accepting the water. Oh yeah, by the way, we're talking about Wall Street and the markets and making money. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Because the hard part with trend following is not the system. It's not the strategy. It's not the rules. You can do that. The hard part is believing, having the confidence. And that starts with a certain amount of reading, a certain amount of finding out who came before you. Who are all the players that came before you, dead or alive? How did they make their money? I think it's very counterintuitive for people to think that if some trader made money in 1995 or 2005 or 2010 or 2015, it's counterintuitive to think that those experiences for that trader at that time could be useful for you at this time. Oh, it's useful. It's more than useful. It's connected at the hip. The markets are just a flow. So the reason they're connected at the hip is because the flow never stops. The flow goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down across all markets. So all you're investigating when I implore you to dig into the history is how people managed the flow prior to you. And since the flow is all connected, that's a great exercise. I remember trend following trader David Harding, who appeared in my documentary film on trend following. He talked about when he first started studying charts. He didn't come at trend following the exact same way as everyone else. He came at it a little bit different, but his studying of charts got him into the flow mindset. And then his systems to the flow mindset again. Follow the price. Now, some of you listening are probably thinking, Mike, what's the magical signal? There's got to be some secret number. Mike, you've not told me what's going to happen tomorrow. Mike, you've not told me where to invest my money. Those are all fair questions. They're ignorant questions. Mind you, I'm not calling you stupid. I'm saying they're ignorant questions. You don't understand the game yet. When you understand the game, you won't ask those questions. When you understand the game, you understand the game. Take a pause. Go watch Ed Secoda's Whipsaw song on YouTube. Seems kind of mercurial, whimsical, fun personality, singing a bluegrass song. A bluegrass song disguised as trend following methodology. Isn't that cool? What does that say about his personality? Isn't that a fun personality? That this MIT math legend, trading legend, Ed Secoda, goes onto YouTube, creates a video singing a bluegrass song that the vast majority of people have no earthly idea is like the secret decoder ring to the riches of your lifetime, if you pause to believe. But that's kind of the whimsical nature of Ed. Ed knows that most people will not pause to understand what he is sharing with them because he doesn't look like Jim Cramer. He's not screaming like Jim Cramer. He doesn't have a bunch of bells and whistles and charts behind him. He's got a freaking banjo in his hand. The guy with the banjo in his hand is giving the trend following insight, not the fools on CNBC and Bloomberg or the Wall Street Journal or the Financial Times. I just caught a clip the other day from the environmental editor for The Guardian, UK newspaper. criticizing trend following from early 2022. Now, trend following made a bloody fortune in 2022, but this environmental editor was criticizing trend following for doing so well in early 2022, especially on commodities. And then she went into the standard trope of, these evil speculators, we shouldn't let these evil speculators into the game. Of course, not having any understanding of market structure at all, just wanting to whine. Isn't that a great example of what I'm saying today? None of that shit matters. Who cares if some environmental editor from The Guardian doesn't like that trend following traders made a lot of money until they make trend following illegal, which I guess is possible in the future. We'll all go to some kind of state-run life where the state deals out some kind of meal card for us and we have no opportunity to profit. Maybe, but we're not there yet. So who gives a crap what the environmental editor at The Guardian says about trend following traders? Us on the trend following world, we just laugh all the way to the bank. And if people don't like that, if they don't like speculation, if they don't like winners, who gives a shit? I don't care. Which brings me back to the top. Avoid the noise. Follow the price. Don't make a prediction because you can't make a prediction. You can react each day. You can go with the flow. You can apply this thinking over many markets. You could read Daniel Kahneman's book. And when it's all said and done, if you want to have one of those lifestyles, one of those ways of living where you just tune it all out, you find the place on this planet where you feel the most comfort, where you have the most happiness. Trend following is the way to go. And on a closing note, if you do happen to believe, and this is not any kind of trading wisdom, but if you do happen to believe that future black swans will swim in, and we've seen a lot of black swans since 1995, but if you believe future black swans will swim in, the mentality, the mindset, the strategy that I'm describing today will be the only strategy that will make money if the world goes to hell in a handbasket. If there's a major crash, if there's a major meltdown, what I'm describing today, the trend following mindset, the no news bullshit, turn off all the news, this trend following, follow the price, can't predict, don't know a damn thing why the price is moving, go with the flow, you will absolutely send me gifts. You will send me presents. Because I can promise you, if you do dig into the many directions that I'm pointing to in this podcast, you're going to do well. You're going to protect yourself. You're going to protect your family. You're going to protect your friends. And you're going to put yourself in a position that when the big moves unexpectedly happen, you're going to make a bloody freaking fortune. That much, I promise. I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, trend following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.